Do you believe in the existence of extraterrestrials?
Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on where and when you're watching us broadcast. I'm Thomas Fessler, my friends, and this is Disclosure Tonight. Happy Monday, May 5th, 2025. Wow. Look at the year just flying by and how much disclosure we've had, my friend. Yes, we've got a great show here tonight. We've got our friend coming in, Tyler from Total Disclosure tonight. It should be one heck of a great show. Let me jump into the studio right now. And where am I at? There we go. Mike, my friend, are you with us?
Yes, sir, I am.
How you doing today? Yeah, we got an interesting show here, my friend.
Oh, this is going to be a fun show for the audience. We have a lot to cover with our good friend Tyler. And yeah, this one's going to be a real interesting show tonight.
Excellent.
Yeah, new whistleblower testimony from a very credible member of the government. And Tyler is going to fill us all in on it, on what he's been working on.
Very nice, very nice. Now, I know you probably met Tyler through the Twitterverse, my friend.
Yes, I have.
Excellent. On no further ado, Tyler, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you today?
Doing well, my good pals. It's been quite the 3 or 4 days. I'm running on little sleep, but I'm super pumped. Running on dopamine hits and Twitter likes, you know.
Oh, there you go. Just gotta watch out for the Twitter trolls. There's plenty of them.
Yeah.
Hello, Patrick. We see you. Oh, one of those days, my friend. So, oh gosh, where do we start on this? So you've run into a very interesting NASA scientist who recently has retired. Some amazing stories. Do you want to give us some back history or how you found each other and how we've gotten to this point?
Yeah. So I was asked a few months ago to come on to a new. So I don't know if anyone knows about MUFON and some of the internal struggles that happened a while back.
Oh, God, yes. We have Tom Whitmore, who comes on the show regularly, who was a big part of MUFON, researcher for 35 years. So we're very familiar with that organization, good and bad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So there was a big shakeup, and some of the people that were top of the top, Mindy Toutfest, Terry, all the people that were not only training new investigators, but they were doing a lot of the behind the scenes stuff with the website, the reporting mechanisms, the actual dissemination of larger cases. A lot of these people didn't feel that MUFON was hearing them out. They were saying that MUFON needed to, kind of pivot and become something more. And when MUFON kind of refused to do that and kind of stuck in its old ways, they broke off and they revived the International UFO Bureau, which was started by Hayden C. Hughes, years and years and years ago. The International UFO Bureau is the investigative mechanism that took Jimmy Carter's UFO report, for instance. And, they're doing a big revitalization. It's this really cool, like 21st century, use all the tools available to you, gun-ho kind of place that you can report a UFO, but you can also report like cryptids and not have the fear of kind of like ridicule that MUFON has brought to like some of the nuts and bolts stuff. So I was asked to be the chief marketing officer pretty early on in its development. And then kind of, in the last month or two, I was asked pretty privately if I would talk with someone that had a very interesting story to tell. And that person turned out to be the chief of medicine for NASA, U.S. Army 4th Brigade, 3rd Infantry Division. He had a private practice in Tacoma. He was in the Air Force. Like I said, NASA, DOD. I mean, this guy's resume reads like a science fiction novel. And he was shown something pretty spectacular, 33 years ago. He just retired, and I took that interview on. The Daily Mail actually technically broke it first, Josh Boswell, but I would say I went more in depth.
Nice.
Yeah, about 90 minutes worth. You definitely went into in depth, Tyler. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's only part. I mean, I'm going to fly him in to the new studio that is being worked on right now, and we're going to do like a very we're going to do another 2 hours, and kind of, now that we got the story out of the way, we're going to kind of dig into some of the, in the episode I talk about, the B-2 stealth bomber, and how I think that is a reference to the Byfield Brown effect, right? So essentially charging each side. So I think our stealth is using technology that's been derived from the anti-gravity, era.
Would we call it derived, or would we call it inspired by?
That's a good.
Because we've heard time and time again from Hal Puthoff and others that we have not mastered or anything close to the material science. We understand how this stuff works, but how it's made, they've tried laying down structures on an atomic layer, one on top of the other, but the stuff delaminates. They can't get it to stick together. So it isn't for trying. They've been trying. So it sounds like we may have some technology. They kind of figure out, maybe understand some of the stuff they're seeing, but as far as what creates from that side, they can't get. But if they can get inspired by it, because that's one of the things that even Salvatore Pais has said in the past, that we have to be careful on what we say because we don't want to inspire the enemy. But the truth of the matter is, these things just don't crash in the United States.
Hell no. Hell no. And, ironically, I was approached by a member of Congress, back channels, still kind of working on it. But they wanted, there's a hearing that's supposed to be happening on May 12th, and they wanted to have Dr. Rogers out there as the 4th chair. Now, I do not know who's going to be testifying. The hearing, actually, I don't even think it's confirmed yet. Obviously, they just had the open hearing. Eric Davis was eating salad. It was great. Just kidding, he wasn't eating salad.
Yeah, the round table, right?
Yeah.
That Lou did last week.
Yeah, that one. That was like the preamble to what was supposed to be happening on May 12th. So a lot of those guys, Dr. Avi Loeb, Dr. Eric Davis, Hal Puthoff, Lou Elizondo, all out in Congress testifying. With an open discussion. I think it was the UAP Disclosure Fund that put it on. So one of those members of Congress reached out to me because we have a good relationship, asked about Dr. Rogers. So it's still in the works, so I don't know if it's going to happen. It might not be this hearing, but maybe a future one. But I'm also working with Robert Salas from the 1967 Malmstrom case. I walked him into Nancy Mace's office to brief her after the November hearing. So it's kind of like first come, first serve, I suppose.
Has there been any interest out of Mace's office about Dr. Rogers?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Recently?
Yes.
Remind me after the show. You and I need to have a private conversation about that, Tyler.
Sure thing. It's about as far as I can go with it for now. I don't want to. I just don't want to jeopardize it. It's not that I don't want to talk about it. I just don't want to jeopardize any, potential, possibility of him being there.
Of course not. No.
But what's really cool about, I know people in the United States can be, maybe they feel a little bit isolated when we get into talking about Congress because it is really Republican, but I don't see it that way. It might be Burchett, Luna, Burleson, Gates. It might be the Republican side that's more interested, but we have to remember this has been mainly bipartisan.
It
right?
should be, and I'll even bring that up. Even with this is the second time they've had the UAPDF there, which is actually staffed by a lot of really lefty, if you want to call it hefty lefty libtards off to the side, who are, the guy who coined Orange Man Bad, Mr. Matt Ford himself, and I'm just surprised that there is no Democrat representation coming to a UAPDF organization or meeting, especially because the organization does lean to the left pretty hard.
I agree. It is. I mean, they're like, and that's what I mean is like optics. You would look at it and be like, well, that's kind of one-sided, but it's not.
Yeah.
I think the Republican side of the party, or the wing, if you want to call it, I think they're just more open to talking about it.
Yeah. But remember when we had the first UFO hearing, it was chaired by initially Andre Carson. He had Adam Schiff in the background, allowing Andre to go ahead and do it. And that was a pretty well put together hearing. A lot of great questions that were asked. And I think we actually got more out of that hearing than we've got out of a lot of the subsequent hearings and information being brought forward.
I agree.
But looking back at that again, you've got... what do you call it? There was good representation from the Dems, and I would love to see both sides of the aisle come together, shake hands, and go after this, because there is nothing more bipartisan than trying to get to the bottom of the truth on this.
I agree, and I'm starting to I'm really starting to ponder this lately. I don't know. I really just don't know if government disclosure. I don't know if that's what's going to come first. I kind of think that civilian forums might be the way that it happens. The more and more that comes out, the more and more testimony, the more and more high-ranking, credible people that step forward and put a piece of the puzzle into the larger matrix, if you will. I think that pressure is going to mount so hard from the civilian side that it's going to end up forcing the hand, and it's going to be more of a confirmation from the government, and that lets them keep their hands clean too. So, I think it's kind of the best of both worlds, and I think that's what's being set up by guys like Hal Puthoff, who have been a part of think tanks in the past, who have deemed disclosure unsustainable from many aspects, whether it be financial sector, religious aspects, or just everyday run-of-the-mill psychology.
Right. And the problem is we have a lot of individuals from the IC, from the military, who are all behind, the disclosure movement. And it's just concerning, because these are the same folks who say they will never say anything or take it to a point that goes against anything from a point of national security. And it's almost like they're going towards a very slow drip controlled disclosure, rather than just letting the stuff move forward on its own basis.
Well, hear me out. And I don't say this, I cannot stress this enough. I am not putting down anybody that went through the DOBSR process, the DOD pre-publication. But by definition, if you seek DOD approval, you are not a whistleblower. You are an agent of a controlled narrative, right? Dr. Gregory Rogers, he did not seek DOD approval for what he has said. He could be considered a true whistleblower.
Yeah.
Edward Snowden, true whistleblower, whether you like it or not. Elizondo, not a whistleblower.
What about the guy who came out last week?
Matthew Brown.
I consider him a whistleblower.
Yeah.
I would. I don't know. I haven't spoken to Corbell recently, but I don't think Matthew Brown has gone through the DOBSR process.
No. But he did go from representative to representative's office, posing as the cameraman for Jeremy Corbell, and allowed them to have conversations one-on-one after they kicked the rest of the crew. Oh, you were there for that. Nice.
Yeah. I'm kicking myself in the ass for it now, but I saw that guy with Corbell days before the hearing, and it registered to me just a couple days ago when I saw him on YouTube, and I'm like, wait a second, I've seen that guy before. I was like, he was with Corbell at the hearing. So he actually sat like pretty close to me.
Yeah. Now he wanted to testify, but Mace wouldn't let him testify for whatever. Maybe it's because he wasn't through DOBSR, but I tell you though, he would have been one heck of a compelling witness.
Well, listen, I don't. There was something weird going on that day. I can't really quite put my finger on it, but I was the second person on the floor that day. First person was Corbell. I came in second, like as media, and he was already spun up. When I went over and I shook his hand, he kind of looked like it was something happened.
It did.
Right, and I had just been in the office because when you go into the building, the Rayburn building, there's a house oversight like office. That's where you had to go to check in. So I went to check in, and Schellenberger was in there with Mace. I don't know what was said. I didn't stick around because I didn't think to, but there was them two talking right before the hearing started. I don't know what was said, but I mean, put the one and one together, if you will.
Well, we saw it because at the hearing, Corbell was lying in wait. And the minute that they called Schellenberger up, he thought he was going to get dragged kicking and screaming out of there because he publicly screamed at Schellenberger, "You fucking liar, set the record straight." And Schellenberger stopped for a moment, but then he kept moving and ignored it like Corbell didn't say anything. But he made a big scene.
You could hear a pin drop in that room. And Corbell is a very loud person, put it that way. He was
for good reason, though, because he got fucked over by Mace and Schellenberger.
Yeah, again, I don't want to put any. I don't want to jeopardize.
I understand. So I'm the one saying it, not you.
Yeah.
But I'm just making it clear for the audience of what occurred on November 13th at the hearing.
I will say this. I think that you do have to be careful with members of Congress. Simple as that. I mean, guys, remember, this is the same government. This is the same military-industrial complex that we've been fighting against for 80 years. You can't just roll over and start trusting them now just because 2017's article came out and maybe some confirmations and biases have changed or stigma is starting to shed. That doesn't mean we trust everything they say. And that's, a huge problem in this community is cherry picking when to do what.
Right.
It's very frustrating.
And it's frustrating for Knapp and Corbell and Matthew Brown because they were working and meeting secretly with members of Congress, including Nancy Mace, for months before the actual hearing on November 13th. It wasn't once or twice that they were there. They were going back and forth to Congress to bring this witness forward for literally months. And the entire time that they were meeting with staffers and they were prepping for the upcoming hearing, they were being lied to the entire time.
Yeah.
So how frustrated do you think Corbell had a right to be at that point?
I felt the same way. And that's why.
Of course, listen, as a member of the media, right? George Knapp also spoke about this. And he said that what he found odd was that when they were meeting secretly behind closed doors with members of Congress and the staff, over the course of those months, they were asking them questions that weren't directly related to Matthew Brown. They wanted to know, what are you working on? What are the whistleblowers and witnesses are you talking to? What files or videos or information do you have? It was like they were being interrogated by Congress to divulge their information of the investigations they were doing. Oh my God, are you kidding me? Do you know how bad that sounds? It's terrible. So as a journalist, if you're dealing with Congress to do the right thing and they screw you over like that, something doesn't smell right. And they have every right to be as pissed as they are, which is also why Matthew Brown had no choice now but to come out publicly with Knapp and Corbell because Mace blocked him from testifying at the hearing. So this is the only avenue left open to that whistleblower. That's it.
Yeah, and I don't know if anyone else caught it, but I've interviewed a lot of people in my time, because I've been doing this for a long time. I used to do, I come from the Hollywood world, but if you looked into his eyes, that dude was scared.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he looked visibly nervous the whole interview. So nervous.
Well, you signed something with the termination clause.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot, there's a lot that goes into this. And, going through it a little bit myself, not to the degree, of course, that Corbell has gone through it, but trying to keep things on the low and, trying to work the system in the way that you're supposed to, do the right thing, go about this the way that that we've been taught that is the right way. And then when you hit like a roadblock, you start to lose faith in the system that we've built up. And, that leaves us at square zero, right? Because, we're trying to build this disclosure with members of Congress, with the government, right? Meet halfway. But when, they're always doing politics shit and stabbing you in the back, it's really hard to continue to work with someone like that, or anyone for that matter.
Well, if you remember at the hearing itself, and what you may or may not know, Thomas and I broke this story on October 24th of 2024, before the hearing on November 13th. It was a few weeks before. And we put it out there that the executive branch was trying to influence Congress.
DOD Act.
Yeah. The DOD is part of the executive branch. But yeah, the DOD, the Pentagon, was trying to either shut down the proposed hearing, because at that time, they still didn't have a confirmed date. They were trying to get authorization. It was up in the air if they were going to have an actual hearing or not. So that was one part of it. And then the other part of it is that they were telling members of Congress, if you have this hearing, you can't have or talk to certain people, and you can't ask certain questions. And then during the live hearing, Mike Rounds, who, he co-authored the Schumer-Rounds bill for the UAPDA, he publicly made an announcement that we were told, no uncertain terms, do not talk to certain witnesses and do not ask certain questions. And he publicly said that. So it confirmed what Thomas and I were talking about with that story. And that, of course, had to do with what happened with Nat Corbell and Matthew Brown.
Yeah.
That was the result of what we originally had broke back in October.
Yeah. Corbell became, and that was the whole thing that really kind of like set me back was, you had the weaponized crew kind of really propping up their work with Congress, right? That how they've been working with Congress, and Congress was finally listening, and all this was. It kind of felt like it was crescendo. There was a crescendo about to happen where civilian reporting and government came together and just blasted the rocks off this thing. But then that happened, and you realize who you're actually dealing with, because you're not dealing with Mace. You're not dealing with Burchett, right? These are low-level people in the grand scheme of it. Who you're really dealing with is the lobbyists, the companies,
military-industrial complex.
Military-industrial complex. If you want to call it the deep state, if you want to call it the cabal, if you want to call it anonymous, I don't really give a fuck.
Call it the fourth unelected branch of government.
Yeah, and listen, Daniel Inouye said it best. They have their own military. They have their own fundraising mechanisms. They have their own agenda, and they operate above the law. There is no sovereign border that will stop them, deter them, or change what they want to do. So, we're all here playing regular chess. They're playing 4D.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how do you win against something like that?
Keep doing what we're doing. Keep pushing. Keep bringing the truth out, like you were doing, right now with what you did with Dr. Rogers.
I agree.
Keep that up.
Back to that story. So, I mean, this guy's at Cape Canaveral, right?
Right.
He's the chief of medicine. He's I forget the year. 33 years ago. Whoever can do the math on that, I think it's 92. I'm 32.
It is 92.
Okay,
92.
Yeah. So in 92, and I want to set the scene for people who don't really who can't maybe understand it, because I don't know if you've ever had a superior that you looked up to, or that maybe did something nice for you at one time, and then whatever, a couple of years down the road, you're still at the company and you want to impress that person, right? There's this kind of dynamic that happens, and it's a scenario like that that occurs because he's just doing his job as the chief of medicine for NASA when he's doing he's walking down the hall, and he had overseen over 180 astronauts, so they knew him better than he knew them, if that makes sense. So most people will confide in their doctor. Most people trust their doctor, right? And it seems that this person really wanted to get something off their chest because they pulled him into the room, really kind of very abruptly is how he describes it. And he is shown closed caption television or closed caption. He can't say if it was live or not. It was an undisclosed hangar, but there is on the TV, on the monitor, what can only be really described as like what Bob Lazar talked about is the sports model, except there was one key difference. It had a U.S. Air Force emblem on it, and it tilted, it rotated, it maintained its angle of attack. So he's watching this thing on the camera, and it starts hitting him kind of like, what's happening? He's like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to fucking report this guy. He's showing me classified footage. I'm gonna have to report him. I'm gonna like this. So all that stuff starts going through his head.
I think this is a rendition that he drew of it, right?
Are you showing it right now?
Yeah.
Yes. So you can see on the right side of the picture is kind of this is the angle that he's being seen on the television or on the monitor. And on the right side at 3 o'clock, if you will, if that's how we're looking at it, he draws that U.S. Air Force emblem. And then there's at 3, 6, and 9, there's these black vertical like rectangles. And if you've ever seen test craft, they always put these test markings on test vehicles. And he said it had all the markings of a test vehicle, but it was a fucking flying saucer. And he won't say that it was very similar to the sport model of Lazar because he doesn't want to align himself with Lazar. But we're talking the same time frame. It was in an undisclosed hangar, and it acted, it moved, and had no visible propulsion. Almost exactly the way Lazar described it.
But as this was going on, if I remember correctly, he was at Patrick Air Force Base.
I'm sorry, what?
Dr. Rogers was at Patrick Air Force Base when he was shown this closed-circuit TV video.
Correct.
He thought originally it was his helicopter in the hangar, but it wasn't. Right.
Right. So there is some confusion, and because I know Josh Boswell when he broke the article, because people kept asking me, where is the video? And so just to be clear, like we don't have the video. We don't have that. Where like I would love to see that fucking video. I think everyone would. But yeah, so he gets pulled in. He said he left that office like visible, like super like upset because he realized that he couldn't report on this guy. He couldn't do the right thing because it would only haunt him for the rest of his life.
Well,
right?
While he was watching the closed-circuit TV video that the guy was showing him, didn't a colonel come in with 2 guards?
Right. So again, I'll kind of backtrack. I'm jumping all over the place. Again, running on little sleep. I do apologize.
No, it's okay, Tyler. We got you, guys.
This is why you're here. You guide me back. So yeah. So the person. So there is a. Maybe we could play that clip. I don't remember what it's called though. I think it's Breaking Silence.
Yep, I got that one.
And if you want to play it, I could talk about it after. Is the Colonel.
All right, let me go ahead and find this one. It's in a.
Thomas, your video is off in the back.
Is it?
Yes, sir.
Oh, now you tell me. Okay, thank you, sir. There you go. Now you can see.
Perfect.
All right, so let me get this video up here. Hold on a second. Let video. Test. All right, so here we go. Should be able to see this now.
We see it clearly.
Okay, this is a 1:20 clip. Let me go ahead and play this, and we'll see where it takes us.
Mm-hmm.
It's ours. Where did we get this? And he motions upward, as in it came from either the gods or.
He pointed up as though he's indicating space, and he says, "We got it from then." So that is some intelligent source. At that moment, I wasn't really interested in any additional information because he had already screwed me over.
Right. And that's that is an interesting aspect to this whole thing, because, you didn't ask to see this. And, I don't even want to ask this, but I think I have to. Is there any chance that this was done to you on purpose to have you an eventual, some sort of disinformation campaign, some way to try to trick you, to discredit you? Is there any chance that could be what's at play?
This is going to sound a little bit personal, but my impression of the guy who was showing me this was that he was.
So just to finish that, it does end a little bit early. That was meant to kind of like tease it. But again, that's kind of where he goes into, he thinks that the person was kind of like trying to impress him, if that makes any sense to anyone. Or maybe even, I don't know if anyone's ever heard the story about the guy who went to what he thought was a NASA facility, but it was actually an NSA facility. And he was shown like the backside of the moon, the pictures. And it was that similar, it was that kind of like similar, like maybe he just wanted to get off his chest.
Yeah. Did you turn off your camera by chance?
He wanted to impress someone.
I think we lost your camera, Tyler.
Yeah, I can't turn it back on. I don't know why.
Okay.
I'll fix it.
But from what I remember, when the colonel walked in on him, he then immediately had to cover his own ass and the guys, and he said that the skin lesion is not cancerous. He called the doctor in for a quick look. That's why the door was locked.
Yeah,
right?
So the door was shut behind them when they walked in the office, locked, and then, towards the end of the meeting, if you want to call it that, there starts a knock at the door, right? Colonel's knocking, like, why is the door locked? And they open it. Well, it ends up getting opened, and now he tells Dr. Rogers, like, you can't tell anyone this. And when the colonel comes in, he kind of like on the cuff, almost like he was prepared. He was like, yeah, I was asking about this lesion on my back. And it's in this moment, Dr. Rogers is like, it's all kind of processing, like, what do I say? So he ends up coming to the conclusion, like, okay, I can't report this. I'm going to sound fucking crazy. And he just confirms it. He goes, yeah, the lesion wasn't cancerous. He beelines it out of the office, leaves that base, and never goes back.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, so he was shown something. Now, people will say, okay, it's just another story. Listen, this guy is not just an everyday citizen. This is the NASA chief of medicine, right? This is a NASA flight surgeon, right? He protected our nation's heroes, right? We look at astronauts as heroes. You do not just walk into that job, you earn it. And when we stop giving those people the benefit of the doubt, then what is the fucking point, right? If we can't take him at his word, right? We'll put someone in jail for their whole life based on eyewitness testimony. And I understand psychologists will say, oh, it's the worst form of whatever. Those are the same people who can't tell you what consciousness is or won't even talk about it, right? And anyone who's anything other than normal is sick, right? Because they were just the not bullied person at school, the unordinary person that became a psychologist and deemed everything that's not normal as being impossible. So,
but correct me if I'm wrong. It wasn't the first time that Dr. Rogers had spoken truth to power. Didn't he, in treating the astronauts, became aware that the heat shielding on the space shuttles
wrote a book
when
about
they
it.
would go into orbit? Yeah, he did. They
Years
would get damaged.
before.
Yeah, in the 90s, he had spoken out to NASA and told them they need to put a repair kit on the space shuttles for in orbit. They could do repairs to this heat shielding before it would return back to Earth. And then in 2003, they ignored him. And in 2003, we had the shuttle disaster.
Correct.
So, right. So he is somebody who's spoken out. He took a risk in doing it to try to save lives. And because he spoke out and they ignored him, we had that terrible disaster that basically brought the space shuttle program to an end.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't even know how to stress
So
that.
my point is that Dr. Rogers is extremely credible to the work that he's done for NASA. And he is somebody who is not just some person sitting and drinking beer and telling a wild fish story. He is speaking from experience and he had high clearances.
Very.
As working for NASA and being a medical doctor and a flight surgeon. He also did rescue missions on helicopters during the, the hurricane that came in. He went to rescue people's lives, and he's somebody who's extremely credible.
Yeah.
That was part of the interview that you did with him, with his background.
He is an incredible man. And part of me wants to, part of me wants to talk the UFO thing it's a very interesting story, but I mean, that's only scratching the surface on this guy. I mean, the things he's seen, the things he's done, the things he's been a part of, there's still a lot he won't talk about, right? Because he's a patriot, because he won't break that barrier. I've asked many questions. Now, he also talks about, I don't know how much of this made it into the final cut, but he talks a lot about, and this will come out eventually, so I'll start it. There is an Apollo astronaut that confirmed to him that they were tailed on the way to the moon. So it's not just what he was shown, it's what he's been told by other astronauts. And again, I want to stress this whole doctor-patient confidentiality thing. People trust their doctors, right? And it's very interesting. He won't confirm it yet. I can't really. I've begged him to go on record about it. But until that person's dead, he will not. So when that person dies, I think we'll be able to talk more about it. But several astronauts have confirmed to him that there is something that follows our space program intricately.
Ed Mitchell has spoken publicly about this. There are many astronauts that have made similar claims over the years that wanted to speak the truth to the public about the activity that's been going on up there. And we spoke of Matthew Brown, Jeremy Corbell's witness that's come forward recently. And he said the same thing. He said that there is activity that's going on that the government is aware of, that he has actual information on with the testimony that he's given so far publicly.
Yes.
And it confirms a lot of what you're saying and what Dr. Rogers was saying in the interview with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing is, and I tell a lot of people this is, guys, step back, right? Step back and start looking at the big picture, right? Start plugging in pieces, start doing your research and start connecting the dots. You're going to see a theme. You're going to see a narrative start to emerge. And I don't want to front load anyone because I'd like you to directly apprehend it yourself. I can tell you it's raining outside, but you're only going to know when you go look outside, right? And find it for yourself. But there is something going on. There is not a fucking doubt in my mind that there are things in this world. The world is not black and white like we're grown and taught to believe. There is so much more gray than we were ever led to believe. And something is going on, and it's being kept under wraps for reasons unknown, probably greed, money, and that kind of deal. And they are watching, and they are watching very closely, whoever they are.
Well, it's interesting because, like I just pointed out, Dr. Gregory Rogers worked with NASA, and Matthew Brown are unrelated to each other. They're not connected.
No,
But
absolutely.
meanwhile,
Yeah.
right, they seem to have information that corroborates what each other is saying. And as far as what's being hidden, we got an inside look on that when David Grush had testified publicly on July 26, 2023, and told us, the reason that he made the sacrifice of speaking out publicly is because there's a simple truth that we are not alone on this earth by ourselves, that we are faced with another presence, an NHI, as he described it, non-human intelligence, that is here with us. So he then went into details about what the government has been hiding, biological bodies, recovered craft, 12, according to his testimony. But what really threw a monkey wrench into his very credible testimony, because he conducted a 4-year investigation and spoke with over 40 witnesses in his investigation, and he was able to get access to legacy program, reverse engineering, and crash retrieval programs, and spoke directly with these people that confirmed his information that he spoke out about. He went to the Inspector General's office, and they investigated it, and they found his allegations to be credible and urgent, and referred it to the Congress. So what threw a monkey wrench into his testimony and information was that after that hearing, we never heard anything again. It didn't follow up. There was
wasn't there supposed to be some like op-ed?
There was an op-ed that he had to get a second NOPSA approval to be able to issue and put out publicly. And he got the second DOPSA clearance for this op-ed. And before he put the op-ed out publicly, he had a secret meeting here in New York City with members of Wall Street that were high up, including high-ranking members in the government. And in that private meeting, he then shared information that was going to come out publicly in the op-ed. And he said that for the first time, not only does the government have possession of biological bodies, he confirmed that those bodies are in fact the gray type, which have been described by abductees over decades. So that was the first confirmation we got from a government source of what exactly was the nature of the biological bodies that were recovered.
Okay.
He confirmed that. He then went on to say that the government is in possession of a craft that is 40 feet in diameter on the outside, but over 300 feet on the inside. Now, that describes an understanding of physics.
Well, not even just understanding of physics.
What we have.
Kind of what we're talking about is dealing with something that's dimensional within regards to space. Now, in addition to having these dimensional, if you want to call it, variances from reality on the outside to what's happening on the inside, there's also a time dilation that happens. So we're dealing with a craft that on the outside versus on the inside is dealing with a different dimension of space and time than ours.
Try to wrap your head around that.
TARDIS,
well,
Doctor Who.
That's exactly right. But like Thomas just pointed out, there was somebody who gained entry into the craft.
Well,
and when they did, They were in there 5 minutes, their time. But when they exited the craft, over 4 hours had went by on the outside.
Where I just want to make sure, because I want to make sure I'm not conflating two stories here. Are you talking about the same craft that Lakatsky talks about, that the CIA?
No.
Okay, so this is a different craft.
This was described by David Grush, not.
But who said they got in and
That was James.
That detail I've never heard.
Yeah, there was people that were discussing this incident, and one of the descriptions that came from the people that were talking about it was that somebody had actually gained access, just like Jim Lakatsky said, but he was talking only about the craft that he was speaking about, and that was from the book Skinwalkers at the Pentagon that he did with George Knapp,
right?
Which is unrelated to the testimony that David Grush had given. Now, the good news is that it was recently announced that after 2 years, that op-ed that went by the wayside and evaporated into thin air, David Grush is going to release it now in a couple of weeks, around the time of the hearing on May 12th.
Right. And you know, it's actually really cool. So I did an episode with Eric Burleson, or Congressman Burleson. And in that episode, because he had reached out to me, which was weird. That was the first time I ever had a member of Congress find me. It was a very weird feeling. Very, very surreal. You kind of like, what the fuck? What do you want? Why are you messaging me? This is very uncomfortable. But it wasn't. It was really cool. But I did an episode with him, and I had mentioned to him before the show. I was like, why don't you just hire Grush? And then he did. Really, I'm not taking credit for it, but he might have had the idea before. But I was like, because he kept talking about how the intelligence, the 4 eyes that you have to go through to get someone in a skiff, especially when there's classified information, like highly classified information. There's all these barrels you have to jump over. In Burleson, they were having trouble jumping over one specific barrel, one specific part, and they could not get Grush in this goddamn skiff. Last I heard, he still hadn't done it. He had to delay it. But
yeah, because they only restored his TS clearance, which is a low level. They did not restore his SCI clearance, which would get him into a skiff, and it's still up in the air right now.
Right. And you know what's a really like full circle moment for me was, without Grush, Dr. Rogers never comes forward. Grush is the sole reason that this guy, this God-fearing man, right? I mean, super religious, and I'm talking like not devout, like not like maybe devout's actually a good word. Not like
Eric Burleson, who is devout,
right? Like not like super, but he even says it in part 1, like he thinks that, and it's something I've talked about many times where God said let there be light, and the Big Bang. I mean, you're talking about the same fucking thing. You're just describing it with science or religion. It's almost identical story, right? And
right.
This is a man that fears that, I mean, if he does something wrong, he's not going to get into heaven. Well, lying to the American public about a UFO that he may have seen on a TV, that is going to not be something a God-fearing man does at the age of 60-something years old after
68.
He retired 5 days ago.
Yeah, 68.
Right.
And he spent most of his adult life serving this country as a medical professional and a hero. He dealt with the astronauts. So yeah, very credible.
Again, when we stop giving these people, when our bellies are full in the UFO community of all the testimony that we get and all this instant gratification that seems to come with this new interconnected world, again, it seems we've become a little greedy in that sense. And when we stop taking men and women and people who have these credentials, when they step forward and say something, and then the community jumps on them and makes them feel isolated, makes them feel stupid, makes them feel bad about themselves, calls them a grifter or a charlatan or whatever Dr. Greer's
Yeah, but
word
it
of
gets
the
into
week
a
is.
problem when someone holds up a thing and say, "Look, it's a UFO," and
I
then you find out, no, it's an espresso machine.
or the crop circle.
Actually, that's an
Whatever.
Italian in the background on a little gondola. So there we go.
This whole and we were actually really nervous to release the Dr. Rogers interview with all the shit that was happening with Elizondo, because we were like, well, we don't know if it's going to outweigh it, and it kind of did. Like if you Google like UFO whistleblower right now, Dr. Rogers is not the first thing that comes up. It's Elizondo holding up a picture of irrigation circles.
And
Where
oh my
are
God.
fucking
And here's the
priorities?
thing. Wasn't he the head of ATIP for a while? And he's been involved with
don't
us
get
for
me
so
started on the
long.
Chandelier.
And and here's the thing. The photo wasn't even from a freaking plane. It was a satellite image that had been doctored.
Yeah. And again, this is the guy that people defend. Now, I made like a little episode about this. I don't know if any of you guys caught it, but I talk about it. I think it's a couple episodes back on the feed, but it's only like 9 minutes long. That's how you know it's the right one. I forget what the title is. But I say this. If you're defending your favorite UFO guru like it's your fucking fantasy football team, you have a problem, right? Because in this community, we are dealing with the most complex topic, the most I mean, Jesus Christ, the U in UFO stands for unidentified, yet we're not open to being wrong.
Right,
We're
but have
not-
you heard about AARO lately? The current head of AARO came out last week and he said, if we have any cases we haven't solved, we haven't figured out, we've got information on, we're not going to release anything on it. They're only going to release information on cases that they figured out that they're prosaic. Otherwise, they're not. Well, isn't that what he said, Kozlowski, Mike?
That guy is
That's exactly what he said. And then on top of that, Tim Phillips, his co-director.
That was the one I saw. That was the one I
That
did
son
see.
of a bitch was coming on LinkedIn and attacking David Grush and Matthew Brown, the whistleblowers. So, yeah, and then Kozlowski came out with, well, if we can't scientifically explain and give a prosaic explanation for any of the cases we're dealing with, we'll keep it on a shelf and won't share it with the public. But you know what? That's the exact opposite of their mission statement when they were stood up. And they should be doing the opposite of that, but they're not. So the bullshit that Kirkpatrick started by turning AARO into what is known as a flypaper operation, that means you get witnesses to come in and testify, and then you lock them into a new NDA, and then if someone tries to FOIA their testimony, you put up the exemptions that
Want to
state
hear
it's
something?
ongoing investigation, so you can't release it. Yeah, it's just a shit show. AARO is a joke. Yeah. Go
wanna
ahead,
hear something
Tyler.
about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I have 3 individuals who have worked on nuclear. Now, let's get this into perspective here. Nuclear facilities, right? Some of these guys are the person that if the president called to launch, they would turn the key, right? I have 3 of these people that I know have given testimony to AARO because I have it. They recorded it. When I FOIA'd it, guess what they said? I wanted to see if I could get it.
D5 exemption, law enforcement investigation. I'm familiar with it.
Right.
And it sounds like you're talking about our good friend, who we've also had on the show, Bob Salas. Because I know
One of them.
that he testified to AARO, and what a shit show that testimony was. He talked about it.
Yeah, I have the whole thing. I can't release it. He won't let me. But if he decides that he's going to go scorched earth, which is very close to happening.
Oh, he's already gone scorched earth on Lou many times.
Yeah. But I'm talking like because he really wants to testify in front of an open hearing. I got him very close, very, very close. I walked him into. I conceded my time with Nancy Mace. I allowed him and Steve Bassett to come into the interview with me.
Oh
And
God.
Mr.
Instead of-
Disclosure is going to happen next month. Bassett.
listen, he was a baggage deal with Salas. He had to come in. So
Why?
I would talk about it off air.
Oh,
Okay. Oh
Okay.
God.
Yeah. But anyway.
don't ever let him stay at your house.
Well, when me and Salas, me and Salas had Ubered back to the hotel in DC. And because I talk with Robert and his wife Marilyn like
Right.
once a week. We had a weekly phone call for a while. I just moved into this place, so and I've been having some phone issues. I'm not going to bore you guys with that shit, but I'm going to see him at Contact in the Desert, and we're actually going to go out to the what is that what is it oh God, it was like the thing that guy built to be like a UFO magnetometer or something like that.
You're
I'll think
talking
of it.
about the car, the UFO car? I've seen
No,
that.
no,
Not
no.
the AARO car, no.
I'll think of it. I'll think of it.
It's like a building that
Um,
looks like a UFO and has the magnets and
yeah.
all that kind of stuff that spin around and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yes, it's that. So him and I and Chris Bledsoe, we're all going to go out and we're going to see that first, and then we're going to go to Contact together. It's going to be really fun. I cannot wait. May 28th for anyone that is looking to go. Tickets are on sale. It's going to be super fun. But yeah, so Bob Salas, when him and I got to Mace's office, the same day the hearing happened, it was a couple hours later. When we got to our office, Steve was already there. He somehow wiggled himself in. So
Of course he did.
yeah, I don't want to say that, but he was in the office before I even got there, and I'm like, how the fuck are you here? What the fuck?
Yeah.
What is going on? Ron James was really trying to get me to let him in too, which is a interesting detail because he wanted to use it in his Accidental Truth next movie, but didn't
Great.
work out. But anyway, so back to the nuclear witnesses. Mario Woods, Bob Salas, Robert Jacobson, all of them testified to AARO. All of them recorded it, and all of them you cannot FOIA. You cannot get it for some reason, even though it's supposed to be open to the public, right? And it's supposed to be this almost like think tank, like with the public and the DOD, and it's supposed to be this revolutionary office, all domain anomaly resolution office. We're here to serve you, when it's in reality we're here to fucking red team you.
If we can really quick, someone from the back, Patrick, Mr. Elizondo's at Langley. How's it going?
Yo, no, there was a bunch of stuff, and I wanted to touch on earlier. We were talking about NASA, Tyler. That's awesome, and I love how many contacts you've made there. I want to ask you some crazy questions that I can't get answers to that I've asked for years. As we all know, NASA is the civilian front to the American space race. It posed a great stage for propaganda. There were a lot of cool science things on it. But have we gotten any of the names of the unpublished astronauts? Have we gotten anyone that's come forward about anything on their deathbed confessions in regards to a lot of these classified anytime you do anything, it's a mission, so it'd be a classified mission to space. Once the space shuttle took off and it left public view, everything from that point on still remains classified with very, very limited exposure. In some instances, who was even on those shuttles going up? There was multiple space shuttles that returned where they just simply went unpublished. And like today, when you look back and you ask about the moon landing, they said, "Oh, we didn't maintain data." You didn't maintain data who you sent to space,
Or the most historic moment in human history. You didn't retain that? What the fuck?
Exactly. I took a huge interest in this when you had touched base also on the tile thing. I come from the area where the company Starfire is based out of, where we made the replacement glue and a caulk gun to send astronauts out of the shuttle to glue tiles back on in Schenectady, New York. So that's hometown pride shit right there. I fixed HVAC. Yeah.
Oh, my man. That's a really good question. It depends on if you trust Corey Good.
No.
I'm just kidding. I'm serious. I'm just kidding. But I have talked to Dr. Rogers about the secret space element, and he gets very quiet. I just, I don't have too much information on that. You know, he won't give me any names of people. He won't align them. I mean, he won't even, you know, tell you who the astronaut is that told him that they were tailed, but anyone can figure out who it is, but he won't say it. So there's a lot that this guy will not talk about, and it's because he's just that, and you know, this is
He's
to
a
me.
Patriot.
Right, that's to
why.
me. This is on the phone, you know, where it's not going to go public, and I can't get him. But I have a real big interest in the secret space program. One thing he did tell me is there was this story about the medical channel and Neil Armstrong. There's high validity to that story, that Neil switched to the medical channel and was saying that something about Santa Claus, like we're being watched. He was essentially saying they're here. And he did it over the medical channel because that was a private channel, except, you know, the Soviets and a bunch of ham radio operators were listening in somehow. So the Soviets have that recording, apparently.
The Soviets know a lot more about a lot of things, and that's kind of interesting when it comes specifically to the moon landing. When it comes to a lot of that, there was a reason that the Cold War stayed cold and promises were kept, because money was shifted hands. I don't know how deep people want to go into Cold War stuff, but one of the things that kept the USSR going was the American dollar. They needed to their country so they could trade with European countries to bring goods into their country.
Right.
And at one point, there was a question of how the heck has this nation that hasn't had any outside trade, as large as they have, lasted as long as they did. And in '92 with Glasnost, you had Jacques Vallée going over. He got to look at some interesting stuff. Who is the British fella? I'm lost at his name right now. Nick Pope also got to look at some information over there about it. But they've kept a lot of secrets, and even today, I think that we see that respect from Russia, because if they really wanted to blow the top on us, they know a lot of secrets.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I don't mean to cut you off there. We talked about this earlier. I mean, Russia, the United States, these superpowers, right? That doesn't mean shit to the people who are really holding the right? That's all just puppeteer stuff, right? Those people, they don't see borders, right? They just see power, control, and I would almost say that they could be deemed a breakaway civilization, because they're hiding technology that was derived either from off-world technology or was inspired by retrieved craft that, you know, might be either interdimensional or extraterrestrial or extratemporal. I mean, insert not human thing here. But you know, what I find really interesting about this is, you know, the whole, again, we have to look at a lot of different things here, because, you know, look at the story of Gary McKinnon, right? Even though it's kind of minuscule and maybe doesn't tell you the whole story, start putting that together with what maybe Lazar said, with what Dr. Rogers is saying, with what Matthew Brown is saying. Start piecing it together and forming this narrative, right? Not the narrative, but start looking for patterns, follow the money, and you might discover some shit.
If I could just touch on that real quick, though, as you had said, and I don't disbelieve that there is a very large power behind the secrecy of it, but I think that goes back to what I was saying, where a secret kept is a friend made. And while base level intel knows that there's a there, because base level intel fights to protect that information. I mean, we see that every time there's a FOIA request, the Department of Energy all of a sudden has an interest in what you're trying to recover from them, and you don't see it come out. So just as you had said earlier, anytime you mention that N-word, nuclear, boom, okay, so these were Minutemen. Guess what? That falls under Department of Energy. You're not going to get any Freedom of Information Act requests out of it. If you want to say that you were testing any type of launch device that could potentially end up being matched with a warhead, well, guess what? That means that anything that goes to space now falls under that category, and they don't even have to disclose that there's a file that they're not disclosing to you. There's a classification beyond the base level of classification, and as I was saying, like I didn't mean to discount the fact that yes, there is a higher level of those that are keeping the secret, but at the very base level, I think that that's a negotiating tact that's prevented a lot of war. And as I don't want to claim to say that I've seen any type of knowledge like that used to prevent violence, but it almost supersedes the reaction to the most recent occurrence with Ukraine. I don't think the nuclear issue is the problem. I think that exposing the whole world to some true knowledge, it would discredit all of the powers that be. And it would quickly realize that we outnumber them to a point that we would be more powerful than those that currently hold the knowledge.
I mean, you touched on so many good points. So remember now, anything, and David Grush had said this, I think it was maybe in the Jesse Michaels one or that series that they did, but you got to realize that anything that produces a radiological signature, alpha, beta, theta, any of that, if it even emits anything like that, it immediately, not even, I mean, because, okay, say you walked up on a UFO, right? Before you even get to it, if it's emitting a radiological signature, it has already fallen under the DOE classification, right? So because when they obtain it, it's going to show a nuclear signature. So it's going to fall under Department of Energy classification. So it's literally, and it's ingrained. It's classifying a whole area of technology, blanketed it, like blanket coverage, a classification. So, you know, you're right. I mean, there's this whole other stovepipe with the Department of Energy that, you know, if you have PTSD, I can never get this right. The top secret clearance, you know, top secret compartmentalized. You know, if you're highest on there,
SCI,
that doesn't mean you're cleared to see anything on the nuclear side. So you could be Admiral Wilson and get told you don't have a need to know. Get the fuck out of here.
People that have nuclear clearances have very limited knowledge of things outside of the specific direct nuclear knowledge they have. So we're kind of between, we've got Knowles Atomic Labs right here. Like as I was talking about earlier with Starfire, we've got Knowles Atomic Labs who does a lot of the engineering for Electric Boat. And a lot of my friends that graduate from RPI right here, the first place in a lab where we split the atom, they end up working for Knowles, and then they rotate down to Electric Boat. These people will have Q level security, and I know shit that they don't know, and I'm nowhere near their level of security.
Oh. It's not like you've bought 3 MRIs and tried to build your own particle accelerator, but wait, you have.
and again, I mean, that's what I feel like. You know, sometimes I make this joke is like, I feel like some of us in the community, you know, at least from having conversations with people, you know, sometimes like I feel like I'm cursed with knowledge. And I feel like, you know, sometimes like when I'm walking down the street or walking through the busy city of Boston, and you're watching everybody go about their daily life, right? And they're so ignorantly, blissfully enjoying the whatever they're doing. And, you know, here I am having existential crisis after existential crisis about, you know, are we alone in the universe? Like sometimes I feel burdened with that knowledge, and, you know, maybe I should go take that blue pill or red pill, whichever. Which one was it? The blue one?
I don't know. I just took Tylenol and they're blue on one side, red on the other, so I'm screwed no matter what way.
Yeah, you took the mixture. But yeah, I almost want to get, it's almost like some days I want to get blue pilled so I can go back to living my life ignorantly blissful, like blissfully ignorant, I should say. Because sometimes like the menial shit that people get hung up on, you know, Donald Trump, you know, whatever he said this day. I mean, the guy's a temporary employee. Yeah, I get he's the president, but again, you know, 4 years from now, he's not going to be in office. Like we can start over and do whatever. And people get hung up on the wrong shit. It's very unfortunate because I think what the human race is lacking, it's very reminiscent to the Tower of Babel story. Humans get too close to the gods, and we're struck down, and we're divided. We're made to speak different languages. We're made to look different. We're made to draw these imaginary lines in the sand, right? And we're always battling with each other about race, creed, religion, what you believe. And sometimes that's what I love about the UFO community is, you know, when we start talking about non-human intelligence, well, that brings all the humans to the same level, right? So, I mean, that's why I love this topic, because it is bipartisan. For the most part, you could talk to anyone about it and they want to know if we're alone, right? So again, it's something that plagues me is what the future is going to hold, right? Like, are we going to blow ourselves up in the process? Are we going to get disclosure and then the world, you know, comes together? Because I think what the human race doesn't realize is there's nothing that we could not achieve if we all had our minds set on one thing. So that's it's frustrating because all the wars have been fought over like really petty bullshit, right?
Religion.
Like what God you believe in? What are you kidding me? You guys kill each other over that? And then, I mean, we get down to resource, and resource can, you know, it makes a little bit more sense, but it really doesn't when you start really breaking it down. Wars have just been wars have been people making decisions to send other people's kids to die for a gain of some sort of power, money, or, you know, a combination of both. So, you know, what's going to happen next?
Record amount of ice building in the Arctic.
Yeah, geez, right.
Yeah, that was a good news story.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you know, I'm not one to say that global warming isn't real. I think it absolutely is. But yeah, no, I was just kidding. I was going to go flat Earth on you right there.
We have a hand up in the back here by Enoch. We're going to call him. He's been patiently waiting the whole time. Thank you for waiting, Enoch. You have a question for Tyler?
Yeah, sure. I'll be quick. I know I spoke a lot last time. So on secrecy levels, I'm sure all of you have probably heard of cosmic level top secret. That allegedly is one of the higher echelons of secrecy, way above
I've
top
never heard
secret.
of it.
Allegedly.
No? Okay. Well, a few different figureheads in ufology talk about it. I'm not sure if it was Robert Dean for one, but I've heard it from a few. But just in general with secrecy, from the things that I've heard, you could take it or leave it, but just to relay it, there's things way above the president, way above Congress that they're not even cleared to know. And you cannot obtain any of that stuff through freedom of information requests.
Yeah, but everything they're talking about with the UFO programs, it is run out of the executive branch under a presidential level special access program. So to say it's out of the reach of the president, it's hard to say that because it's run out of his freaking out of the executive branch.
Well, that's just what I've heard from the figureheads who've talked about it. They probably have their
How many books have they written?
A couple, but not on UFOs. But yeah,
I wouldn't doubt that there is something that maybe it's not like an official tag, but it's like a, you know, part of the club, like, you know, something that they, you know, like how they called, I mean, ATIP wasn't like a legitimate name, right? It was more of a moniker that they used internally. It could be something like that, right? Where like you reach a certain level, whether it's like a crossover between above top secret and like the DOE clearances and stuff. I wouldn't put it past our fucking weirdo politicians and lobbyists.
The other thing is that the president and Congress and other politicians may actually know, but they'll never tell us, and they're not allowed to tell us that they know.
Let me ask you, I want to ask you guys a base question, right? What if the secrecy isn't for the things that we think it is? I mean, maybe there's elements of it, but what if these things, these others, played a part in why are we a species with amnesia, like Graham Hancock says? How do we not know our own origin story? Seems really weird, right? And look at humans in general. What, like we forget things, no, not forget things, but we can't remember things till like age 4. You know, we're really not like if our mothers weren't around, we would die immediately. We have no ability to defend or feed ourselves, unlike every other animal.
And if you look at
planet.
every other life form on the planet, it makes sense. But then you look at humans, and it doesn't make sense, right?
It doesn't. Our biological clock is actually more tuned to Mars. There's so many. Why do we have back problems? Why did we shed our pelt and fur? I mean, why did we shed our fur only to need pelts in the winter and get burned by the sun? It makes no fucking sense at all. But what does make sense is maybe those things, the others, what if they played a part in our creation? Is the world ready?
Well, it's either a zoo. We're either in a zoo or we're in a farm.
Well, is your average everyday American ready for the truth that God made the thing, but right there, that's the thing that created us? Would you be willing or able to come face to face with your creator?
Oh, hell yeah.
It's a fundamental question. And you might off the bat say yes, but really think about it because it's scary. We're playing God right now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
We
Yeah.
have Sergeant Daniel and Andy right now, Thomas.
I know that. We're one thing. Yeah, I'm not sure if you saw today, they have robots now that they've put together in China that are using those brain organoids, and they actually have the robots being controlled and driven around and everything by little human brains. Oh, yeah.
I've seen it. Oh, my God. That thing was horrible.
Yeah.
Yep. So just like, including like exponential growth, like think about where we'll be in the next 50 years, right? Including that exponential growth. I mean, even if these things are only 100, 150 years more advanced than us, that puts them on a scale that we can't fucking fathom.
Oh, how about a million years more advanced than us? Yeah. That's what it's going to come down to. And hey, it's not that long. We're in a point of where the Earth's magnetic poles are going to flip. When that happens, all hell's going to break loose again. It's kind of like come and see the end of the human race.
They told me that in 2012, and I'm still here, right? But,
it's advancing.
No. I really do. I do. That one like actually fucking scares me.
Yeah.
Like,
have you heard the other one they've got
does.
where actually the planet's rotation actually shifts like 90 degrees, and it will do that for a period of time. When that happens, it causes all the oceans to slosh up and stuff. Then after a period of time, 700-800 years, it actually flips back and does the same thing again.
Don't tell me that.
I mean, it's kind of like though the surface gets wiped on a regular basis, and a small amount of humans, like cockroaches, always manage to survive and repopulate again because we're horny little bastards.
And how much longer is Mother Nature going to tolerate the creature that does not give back? Right? Again, we go back to every other animal, insect, and creature on this earth. They have some sort of ecosystem function. What is ours? We take and take and take and take, and we do not give back. So how much longer till Mother Nature winds up and throws a rock?
Well, if they just threw another duck at me, he's asleep by the patio door again. So yeah, I do take care of the animals.
So we really have to be careful. I think I don't think we understand the scale. I mean, I don't know if anyone here's done DMT or anything, but I mean, when I came out of my experience, I knew why the trees were there. I knew why the grass petals looked the way they looked. I knew why everything was this big interconnected world. And then I looked at myself and I asked, what are we doing?
Oh, you do enough psilocybin and psilocin, and it's just as good as DMT.
Yeah,
but you have to do a lot.
Arguably. I don't know if I'd go there. I've done a lot. DMT is the only thing that I legitimately met a being, and it was a wild experience.
And if you're really
and
good at meditating and you do that stuff, it's like pouring gasoline on a fire. You just still have what you have, but it's like super powered. It's amazing.
Well, I remember my buddy kept telling, because we what we did was we went to like a field, and I mean, this guy was like super hippy dippy friend. He was the hippy dippy friend, and the one that I would talk to about all this shit. And he's like, all right, we got to form a triangle with our bodies. And so that way there's sacred geometry being formed between us. We'll all hit it at the same time. And he's like screaming from the top of the triangle, take another hit. I'm like, now I'm on my second hit. And I'm like, dude, the bowl became an eel. I don't even think I can. I don't know if I can possibly do this one more time. So I get the third hit in and blast off. I literally ejected from my body and went somewhere else. No amount of mushrooms or acid has ever done that to me.
You
So I don't
took
know.
the wrong,
I
you took the
don't
wrong
know.
kind or the wrong
Special.
amount, or wasn't prepared right.
About that.
Lemon tech.
Regardless.
Lemon tech.
I think that, like I said, I think that there's knowledge that has been lost. I think our history has been selected. And if we go back to the Bible, the committee that selected what was going to be in the Bible, I mean, think about what the first intelligence community was. It was the church. It was the church. Look at it. They were judge, jury, and executioner for a long fucking time. Only until really recently have we kind of got out of that phase. But I think the cover-up started a long time ago. And we're not even scratching the surface on what might be in the possession of, say, the Vatican, of secret societies. I think there's knowledge in all the sacred books, but only when you read them, when you step back and you read them for what they are, not what you're told they're supposed to be, right? There's a flood myth in almost every civilization. So we could probably say there was a flood. We also have archaeological evidence for said flood. There was probably a flood.
There's been many floods, but yeah.
Right. But specifically the one that happened, around 13,000 years ago during the Younger Dryas is what we, right after the last ice age, that is the one that I think, started our modern human history. Well, I think we know that. But I absolutely think there was a pre-civilization that maybe created the pyramids. You see that
they're saying they're at least 30,000 years old at a minimum.
Right, and like if we disappeared tomorrow from the planet, just all of us, if we all disappeared like the leftovers, that HBO series, I mean, what would be left of us in 150, 200, 300, 400, get to 10,000? What would be left of us in 10,000 years? Nature, we look at Chernobyl, nature takes over really quick, right? So what would be left would really just be those stone structures, right? And it would go back to just the pyramids being here. And whoever comes next, whether it's like, reptilian fucking frogs that take over the earth in, the 100,000 years, they're going to have, the pyramids will still be here. And they'll be like, who the fuck made those? And then they'll all, make up their theories and we'll start this whole process over again. And then eventually our sun will burn up and will cease to exist. Fun times, right?
That sounds like it.
Yeah. So we really got to get off this rock and we got to start working together.
That's what Elon believes. That's why he's trying to get us to Mars.
Yeah, I think, Mars is a great idea. Go under the floor of the ocean. That's the place we can survive. Guaranteed.
Probably
Yeah.
the safest place to be.
I think that you touched on something really well there. There's a lot of evidence. Richard Dolan, has come out with a great new book. I think he's doing a series of books about USOs. But
Great. And we've had him on the show talking about it. Richard is a good friend. Yeah.
Wonderful guy. And he's such a great researcher. So, a lot of the USO cases and a lot of that lore, for the obvious reasons, that's where I would hide in plain sight because the atmosphere of a planet, that can vary. That there's so much variable that can take place in an atmosphere of a planet that you haven't been to. But you know what remains the same? Water, H2O. It's constant, right? It is in every single planet, as long as the conditions are right and it is in the right form of liquid H2O, it's going to be consistent across every single planet. So, I mean, we look at the Varginha case, the pungent smell of ammonia, the red eyes. I mean, Marco Leal has this theory that they were amphibious beings. And that's why it was hiding in the shade when the three girls came upon it. That's why they keep their distance, because, like Marco Cheriz, who took hold of one of them, caught some sort of space infection. And there's precedent for this for Spanish flu. Whenever an advanced civilization meets a primitive civilization, the spread of disease can wipe out an entire people. So, is that why they kind of keep their distance? Is that what maybe happened to Travis Walton to some degree? I mean, these are all questions I think we should all be asking. And I think we all need to really look at consciousness. I think that is the key.
It could be a big key, right?
I think it is the key. I don't think it's the key.
It could be.
Think about this. Let's play let's do a little thought experiment with the audience. Has anyone had a recurring dream? Probably, right?
100%, yes.
Or a dream that you can recall,
yes.
Right? Okay. Now, you've also probably had a first kiss. And I use this for not a loose example. Right now, think back on your first kiss or your first dance with a girl, whatever, a boy, whatever moment. Think back on it. Recall it right now. Bring yourself back there. While we have this conversation, recall that memory. Think about it. Feel it. You're most likely seeing it in third person when you never saw it at that angle, ever. So how does your brain know that? Now, think back on a dream that you had and tell me the difference between the memory and the dream.
Very little. They're similar.
Your brain recalls them the same exact way. And it does it in real time. We're having this conversation. I'm asking you to recall a memory. You're literally time traveling in real time. People don't realize the power of the brain, the power of consciousness, right? You literally can think about, we talk about quantum tech, right? Reaching into multiple dimensions to solve an equation. Your brain does that almost on a daily basis. When you think about a meeting that you're going to have a week from now, and you think about every single fucking way it could go, you're time traveling to the future, and you're seeing possible futures, and you're doing it. You're rendering it in real time while you experience a compression of multiple nows in a row, because time is an illusion. All it is a bunch of nows compiled upon each other, right? This is just a social construct we've created to be on time for work or to be on time for farming or whatever it is. So again, I think we've been taught by psychologists and other people, experts, that our brain is inferior to the hardware kind of technology, but I think it's very much the opposite.
Yep.
Just me. Just a little thought experiment.
Great point.
It's a good thought experiment, but
Yeah.
we've had
Two people.
Sergeant Daniel being
And then
very
Andy.
patient, and Andy. Go
Andy?
ahead, Daniel. You were next.
Yeah, how you doing? So, as far as the whistleblowers go, I have a couple of theories about them. I have a feeling that they're going to be lined up. Do you know, have any firsthand knowledge? That's one of my questions. I have a feeling after they don't, Braveheart this guy, or burn him at the stake, or whatever they're going to do to him, how many more people are going to be lined up to tell their side of the story, knowing that they're not going to, suffer the same fate? What are your thoughts on See, I think the whole thing's, like you said, it's a lot more complicated than most people will even imagine. And we've all had our little run-ins, I think, with the paranormal. And I think that's why we're here. But I personally think they're from the future, and they're just trying to save it for themselves. You know, because we're gonna get wiped out eventually, and they're just gonna they're just trying to save the planet for themselves. You know, keeping us from nuking it so they can live there. But that's my opinion on it. You start in, you know, from a different dimensional standpoint. So, and you know, like I said, I don't have any firsthand knowledge of that, but you know, we all have our experiences, like I said. So, do you think that? Anyway, do you think that that a lot of these whistleblowers are going to be coming forward now? That
there's one person that I know of that will be making the rounds probably very soon. And again, I don't like to play the gatekeeper. I don't like to do that.
You don't want to play. You don't want to play Ross Cullhard?
Oh God, I'm so glad that you said that and not me, because that's amazing. I was thinking it. I was sure thinking it. Yeah, right. The only person who could talk about a football size UFO that's somewhere, but no one is burning him at the stake. Weird, right?
Yeah.
Very weird. But there's one person that I know of that has direct, like legitimate eyes on technology that is not of this earth. And I expect if I am talking to someone like that Corbell, that Knapp, I hope they have some people lined up as well, because there's some shit that's about to get. I mean, like I said, I don't like to play the Steve Bassett, the disclosure's coming next week or next month. I don't know when the fuck it's coming. I don't. But I think the pressure is mounting, and we're like 3 dominoes from falling before crescendo. But yeah, I know of one person that's testimony is really fucking interesting. And
have they testified before Congress yet, Tyler?
No.
Have they gone through the DOPSA process yet?
No, they still work in government, and they still work for a contractor.
Right.
What did Jake Barber say when he did it? Your top 3 guesses, you'd probably get it right. Right. Mm-hmm. So that is where I think the most interesting of the testimony is going to come from. It's not going to come from someone at NASA. I mean, it might. It very well could. But I think the real cool shit's going to come from Lockheed. I think it's going to come from Lockheed.
Well, Grush already broke the story on that. We all know it's fucking Lockheed. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So there's definitely someone in Lockheed that is their ears are ringing right now.
There we go.
So is there somebody you spoke to from Lockheed?
Yes.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yes.
Right.
100%.
Okay. So there you go. Then I could tell you that Knapp and Corbell are focusing still on Matthew Brown, and that story is still yet to be told. Tomorrow, they're going to come out with part 2, and probably a week after that, they're going to come out with part 3. So they're focusing on that. I think the person you're talking about is probably not on their radar.
Yeah, so they're going to be coming to Boston. I'm going to be when I get back from Contact in the Desert, the studio is going to open, and that's one of the first interviews I'm going to be doing, like in person. So
this person is going to be coming forward publicly?
Yes.
And they're going to wait until they leave contract?
Yep. No jobs or approval, nothing.
Good. That's what we need.
I don't fuck around with that.
Right.
Leave it to the wolves. That's the controlled narrative. That's the controlled disclosure. I know for a fact, I interviewed someone yesterday. So as I'm doing all this, yesterday I'm interviewing someone who was at Eglin Air Force Base, and
oh no,
they were front
not last to the finest, is it? Thank God.
No. So they were front loaded essentially in briefings that happened, they were front loaded by the higher ups in a briefing where they were like, hey, yeah, just so you know, like shit falls from the sky into the ocean over here. If you do see it, don't worry about it. It's just space junk and other reentry stuff. Don't worry about it. So that when it happens, no one questions anything, right? They just go, oh, something secret that we're working on, you know, it just fell into the ocean.
This isn't the guy who talks about the giant wall painting they have that has a UFO of an alien on and stuff. No? Good.
Nope.
Good.
No, because I have heard that story before about junk falling in from the sky.
Yeah. So that is something that's a good. I'm glad you guys are drawing those comparisons. You're at least, you know.
Oh, we know.
There's a little corroboration. You know, some people might not be telling their full truth. Maybe they're telling their full truth, but some of it gets lost in the wind, or maybe gets exaggerated a little bit. As human beings, we like to embellish. Right. Mm-hmm. So I am glad that you guys are making those connections, because that connection will come. You know how like Herrera's story is becoming a little bit more popular now that Jake Barber's out?
Oh God, yeah.
As much as I don't like it,
not a fan of anyone in the Greer camp. Right. Sorry.
No, I mean, neither am I. So, but the thing is, I'll hear them out. I watch every interview Greer does. It doesn't mean I believe him. It's just I'm willing to give him the 2 hours of my time, because, again, I'm not there for what, you know, he's spouting. I mean, I am, but it's like those little truths, those, not to quote Ron James here, but those accidental truths that come out, you know, that allow you to draw conclusions, or you know.
Yes, it's for, information gathering. Right. Yeah, we're on the same page.
Greer's a smart guy. Like he started pure, but something happened where he parked his car at Money Making Avenue, and he never let go.
DC Muscle Wolf happened.
Right. That's right.
Have you seen what he charges for a weekend?
Now, does that include does that include dinner, or also dinner and a handhold walk through the garden?
That is DC Muscle Wolf, or is that his Dr. Greer? DC Muscle Wolf, I hear, charges a bit more.
Oh my God, more?
We'll talk privately about it. Don't worry about it.
It's like $7,000 for 2 days with Dr. Greer, and all he does is he lectures at you, and then teaches you to meditate on like a wood plank, and then and then he yells at you some more at dinner about, you know, he likes to tell you that how has that guy been involved in every fucking major thing that's ever happened in UFO history? I mean, like he could try to convince someone that he was the first pope. That's what his mentality.
I think he just bought like a $500,000 RV or something like that.
Yeah, well,
Rick had said that lately.
He's crowdsourcing movie funding, but then begging for money to release his database, saying it will cost millions of dollars for the servers and stuff like that.
He took all the videos he used to have free on YouTube, and he locked them up and monetized them all now as part of his pay-for-play site.
And that's again
look it up.
This is something.
I wonder if I ever thought about being on an OnlyFans.
I like a pictures like the muscle picture of Greer. Like that's going to be his OnlyFans profile.
If you see that picture of him when he's there with the muscle and the shirt off, and line it up with the profile pictures from DC Muscle Wolf back in the day on Manhunt, it's the same guy.
Oh God! But again, I think Greer started off like his 2001 project, at the National Press Club, the Disclosure project. I mean, listen, we can't take that away from him. That was an amazing assembly of pretty fucking amazing people. But I think somewhere along the lines, he got so caught up in being that UFO guru and, you know, being at the center of everything that you
That
know,
cult mentality that he formed.
right. And that's something that we need to be very careful of is this, like when you start like there's people that defend Elizondo on everything. It doesn't matter. This guy could literally murder. He probably has murdered people, right? Let's face it. We know he's tortured people. The guy does not have a clean record, a squeaky clean record. And now he's the UFO guy. Well, he used to be the torture guy. Just so you know, right? The torture czar at Guantanamo. That's the same guy that you're taking at face value every single time when his exact job description was to gain counterintelligence, right? This guy is a trained liar. Is that someone you want to defend? You know, is that a hill you want?
Someone who's been seen walking around at Langley Air Force Base, which is CIA headquarters.
Not just there.
And other places. And many military bases, yes.
He openly talks about it, how he still has contracts with the government and he will not jeopardize national security. How the fuck are you calling him a whistleblower?
Why is it that
do not add up?
Why is it if people say Grush's name in the Pentagon in classified programs, they'll get their ass handed and shown out the door, but if you say Elizondo, nothing happens?
One's real,
I like
one's
Lou,
not.
but there's just something there that just doesn't add up.
I actually like Lou a lot.
So do I.
I do get a bad rap for talking the way I do, but he's not a whistleblower. Like, end of story, period.
Because he could bring a lot of stuff out if he wanted to, but he doesn't.
But no, because he's openly said it. I will not jeopardize national security. I have contracts with the government, right? So it depends on how, I guess, the vernacular we're using with whistleblower in the UFO community. I guess it can be a little bit skewed, right? Because generally what a whistleblower is someone who's coming out, going against the
government
to enlighten,
blow the whistle and bring out the truth.
Right.
Matthew Brown would be an example.
Good example.
David Grush would be an example.
But he also went through Dobser, so you got to be careful.
Yeah, but you know what?
He's absolutely
credible.
I look at that man, and I there's something about it, and I'll say this. You know, we look at autism and these neurodivergencies. I think I was just talking about this, so it's fresh in my mind. We look at these neurodivergencies as almost like impairments, right? What if they're not? What if they're a leg up? Grush, Rogers. Look at all these people in pretty crazy positions.
Elon Musk,
another one, right? What if they're the next stage in evolution? What if we're just behind and we don't realize it? It's that therapist again, you know, the person who wasn't picked on at school, the, you know, average girl or guy who you know had friends in high school, became a therapist and saw everything that wasn't like in their wheelhouse as sickly or as not normal, right? Those are the people who are making these decisions. So, you know, I like I said, I really do think we need to look at consciousness again. I think we need to really look at it because we're not going to evolve physically. We are the apex predator. We are the apex being on this planet. There's no more things that are going to require physical traits to be evolved. But what will evolve are consciousness. That's the next step.
Sergeant Daniel, thank you for being so patient.
Andy's
your hand
next.
up the entire time, and Andy is after him. Go ahead, Daniel.
Andy.
I've already had, but it's Andy.
Andy's up next. Go ahead, Andy, and then Laura.
Yeah, I want to drop back to something you were saying a bit earlier. You know, about the amnesia we seem to suffer as a species. You know, I'm from the UK, as you can probably tell by my accent. You know, here we've got a thank you. We've got you know, pretty good the way I'll explain it, you look when we had, a couple of thousand years ago, we had the Romans here in the UK, in the United Kingdom, and all of the stuff they brought to us, all the roads and all the technologies they brought. Once they left, literally, we reverted the inhabitants of this island reverted back to what they were within literally probably 2 generations. So and very soon after, everything that was Roman was completely forgotten about. So it's a bit slightly off topic from what we're talking about right at this moment, but yeah, it just shows as a species how quickly we can lose the memory of things. Within, like I say, within a couple of generations, all that technology went. They were back to walking on mud tracks and building roundhouses.
Right. I couldn't agree more. What is the saying? It's like weak. I can't remember it. Weak men create. Damn, it's right on the tip of my tongue. It's about the cycle of so like
times create strong men create easy times create weak men.
Boom! Thank you. Someone's got me. Someone's got me. So yeah, we love to forget. I mean, think about like 9/11. I mean, we remember it once a year, and a lot of people on the planet weren't alive when it happened. They didn't grow up with that. So within a generation, that when you hear that word 9/11, for most people who were alive then, just that word will evoke a visceral response from you, right? Everyone remembers where they were. Same with Pearl Harbor. I wasn't alive when Pearl Harbor happened. It doesn't give me the same fucking feeling as 9/11, even though, you look at them as, the 2 attacks on our nation, right? But we seem to forget very easily. And I think we want to forget.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've got it in the UK. 9/11 was awful, and there were some people from this country. It doesn't hold the nation's heart as it does in America.
Yeah, but wasn't it the BBC who reported on Building 7 falling and coming down before it actually was brought down?
It may well have been. I don't want to attest to that, but yeah.
But I mean, look at this. There are literal human beings on the planet right now that think the Holocaust didn't happen.
Yeah.
Because they didn't see it with their own eyes. They think it's some sort of fake fucking conspiracy. And, that's like a wild thing to actually try to process. Like, what? What are you talking about? It sounds illogical, right? But we have to realize that people have been like, we don't like trauma. We push it down. We want to forget about it, and we don't want to. We as human beings, think about all the stuff we compartmentalize on ourselves. People say that you can't lie to yourself. Fuck you. The fuck you can't. You can make a lie become truth in your head. Right? There are people who lie to themselves so much that it becomes truth. It becomes their truth. So don't tell me you can't lie to yourself. You absolutely can, right? You can stick your head in the sand and you can not realize that there is a whole fucking world above us that has some weird stuff going on. And maybe, just maybe, we should take a look at it, because it seems to have our, nuclear facilities, close monitoring those. It seems to really be interested in our space program, and it seems to be hiding out in our oceans and taking people out of their houses and doing whatever. Whatever they might do. And again, I think a lot of people, the alien abduction part is kind of like the line in the sand. But I've heard too many stories to not think that there's something there.
Yeah.
So if all that's true, that's kind of reality shattering, isn't it? Because this contract that we kind of make with the governments of the world is like, hey, dudes, we'll not burn everything down and pay taxes as long as you keep us safe, right? That's like the agreement between us and the government is like, hey, I'll obey orders. You make sure that I don't get shot when I walk out of my house. And what happens when that question comes up, right? Because right after disclosure, the first question that's going to be asked is, okay, the aliens are real. Are they actually abducting us? And when that barrier gets broken, I think there are a lot of people that are going to freak the fuck out.
Yeah, I hear you.
They are no longer safe in their own home. And then
we've never been safe in our home. I'll be realistic. We've never had domain of the skies over our country. We've never had domain over the oceans. We think we have, but the truth of it is it's a fallacy. It's a fantasy because the things that are there controlling it now have always been there.
Right. It's a social construct. It's a social consensus reality, right? That, you know, that the paranormal is just for the paranormal. It only happens in the movies, right? Okay, sure. It definitely happens in the movies. You know, sure, yeah, that totally makes sense. But I have seen some shit that I truly can't explain that I would classify as paranormal. You cannot tell me that I didn't have those experiences because I know I did. Because I am one of the most skeptical people when it comes to the paranormal. I really have a hard time with it. And when I saw it, I was like, oh my God. Turns out I was wrong. Right? So it's only real until it's only not real until it's real.
Yeah, exactly. If we can,
it's
Laura,
only the paranormal for so long, then it becomes the normal.
Yeah. Or abnormal for that matter. Let's bring in Laura Campbell. Laura. Farbaluka.
It's whoever's speaking is very low. Not.
Very low, Laura. Oh, yes. Because I know you had breaking news you wanted to share with us.
God. Maybe you have the wrong mic selected. I don't know.
Yeah,
that could be
that's what it sounds like.
Because I can't even hear her. No.
If we're all really quiet, I think we might be
Just
able
yell.
to do this.
Laura, if you call into my phone, I'll answer it, and we could I could pipe your audio through that way. I'm not sure if the audience can hear. I know it's really, really, really quiet. No one can hear now.
No. I want to hear it.
Call me, Laura.
Laura, call Thomas. Just call Thomas.
Or I can call her. She just needs to answer.
I was gonna say I got like another 15 or 20 minutes in me.
Yeah, and I need to go to bed soon too, so I'm gonna turn into a pumpkin as well.
Yeah, you and me both.
I would love to come back on though.
Oh, you're welcome anytime.
Yeah, this is fun.
I told you it'd be fun.
I tried your phone, Laura, but it goes right to voicemail.
Turn your phone on, Laura.
Sergeant Daniel, is that like legitimate? You were in the Marine Corps?
Yeah, that's affirmative.
Thank you for your service, my friend.
Thank you. I'm up north with you. I have a house in northeast, eastern Mass, and in the Berkshires.
Oh, I love it out there. I'd love to take a trip out there. Beautiful area.
Yeah. Or had something really good.
You know what's crazy is I drove while we're waiting. I drove up. I was filming. I have a documentary that I'm working on. It's kind of on the back end right now, but I grew up next to a haunted road. Ironically, Dudley Road. It's on the top 20 like most haunted places in New England, And I grew up right next to it. And obviously, I grew up next to Salem, Mass, and then the Bridgewater Triangle. So I drove out to Maine to interview this woman. And so it was a 4-hour ride to see her. So we stayed overnight. And her story, this woman, Deborah Hewins, admitted that she had practiced witchcraft in the woods, in the state forest there, in the Bridgewater Triangle, had practiced like demonic arts, and has been visited by many, many beings, including non-human intelligence. I mean, it's the most fucking wild thing you'll ever hear. And, you know, she's stone cold, like telling you, like, you know, I was part of like a cult, you know, we practiced devil worship and some weird shit happened. And I mean, it's just like, those are the moments where like, I mean, the veil becomes thinnest, right?
Absolutely.
And the paranormal, when my mother died, I had seen a UFO when I was like really young. And yeah, I'm 32. I must have been, it was right after, a couple of years after 9/11. I was in 3rd grade for 9/11. I'd say I was probably in like 5th or 6th grade. My mom had asked me to stay home from school. She would do this every once in a while. She'd be like, you want to stay home? And then we'd watch Regis and Kelly, which was at 9 a.m. every day. I remember that. So it was after 10 a.m., but before 2 when the other kids got home. And I grew up next to an Air Force base, so I was pretty familiar with craft. And I was throwing a ball, waiting for the kids to get home. Silver disc oscillating, coming straight over my head, very, very slow, top level. I mean, I could, if there was writing on it, I would have been able to read it. It was that close. And,
any lights on the bottom or anything illuminating?
3 that made a if you drew a line to them, made a triangle.
Was it slowly rotating as well? Yeah.
Oscillating and moving forward. So yes, spinning and moving at it was pacing, but also spinning. And so I ran in, you know, I was like, mom, and she's like, you know, she didn't force any belief system on me. She didn't tell me I saw a balloon. She was like, yeah, you saw a fucking UFO, dude. Like, and then she explained to me, she was very like, she was one of those people who was like very just direct. And she was just like, sat me down. She was like, there's shit we can't explain. Like, we cannot explain it. And you know, it's a mystery. We don't really understand it. U in UFO means unidentified flying object. She brought me to the library. She gave me Whitley Strieber's Communion. The day she died, I was in the room. And she was there. And then she wasn't. And then this orb floated across my vision, went out the window and up. And when I looked back, like I said, she was gone. So she was there and then she was gone. I think I watched her leave. That's my hypothesis, at least. Or something maybe came and got her. I don't know. So it's kind of just weird that my mom is a very central figure to both of the things that happened to me.
So I've got Laura here.
Wow. It's almost like somebody doesn't want me to communicate this message. I have to actually turn it down so I don't get feedback. Yeah, I'm going to have something to share. On the roundtable discussion we just had April 30th, Anna Brady Estevez spoke. And at about an hour, 11 minutes, 7 seconds, she started talking about people that call in this phenomenon. And she said there is an opportunity, and I believe more scientists will be engaging with this. A number of teams are working to call in this phenomenon. Some have ultra exotic protocols. And then one of the groups that we met with to visit with some scientists, their protocol was prayer. Let's say that they did that, like she said, and let's say that they did call in phenomena. They weren't just going to experience this with the scientists. They would record this, correct? Otherwise, why bother? So they have this tape. And who would they give it to? they would give it to probably Luna because she's the head of the Disclosure group. So then what would Luna do with that tape? Would she sit on it? Would she present it at the next hearing? What would she be using it for? Any ideas?
Yeah. Wait, is it on me?
Yeah, it's on you.
Okay. I don't think that would ever see the light of day, if I'm being honest.
I would tend to agree with you, Tyler.
Yeah, I think that it would disappear very quickly because things would get real very fast. Very fast.
Let's speculate. There's some other ones planned for the future with some people that are well known entertainment community or leaders of certain countries would be involved in this as well. I'm trying to say something without saying it, but
Not
I'm trying to
unless
say
there
there's
is
more
an
to come on
agreed
this.
disclosure plan.
And I did
Yeah.
get
Believe there
firsthand
is.
knowledge.
Well, okay. So if Luna were to slip it, ready? If they were, so here's the thing, right? Is ego is going to get in the way at some point, no matter what we do. But someone's going to want to be the person that breaks the story, and or the person that breaks the story. I mean, the first person that comes out and says, "Listen, here's the smoking gun," that person now goes down in fucking history, right? No question about it. Will be written about in history books, cemented in our culture as the defining moment when one of the questions of, are we alone? What happens after we die? Right? These existential questions. If we answer one of those, that person becomes immediate legend. So it would have to be open sourced. It would have to come out on multiple outlets. It would have to come out in multiple countries. It would have to be a globally coordinated thing. And I just don't think we're ready for such a thing, like such an event. I don't think that we could work together to plan that. I think we're giving them too much credit.
Look to a lot of the female
desperately
scientists.
hope.
What was that again about the female scientists, Laura?
I would look to a lot of the female scientists right now. I know they mentioned a Dr. Julia Mossbridge, who's working on space-time work and how time is perceived by subconscious. Others that are high-level scientists, a lot of women particularly, may be involved with this. So
You do understand that adds
That's what I wanted
another
to
layer.
share. Yep. Okay.
So that adds another layer to this whole thing. That again, we as human beings love to divide ourselves into groups. So you think a community of men, and I say this as a person who loves women, has the ultimate respect for women, right? My mother, raised me she raised 4 kids by herself for many, many years, right? I have a sister that just had a baby daughter. I have the utmost respect for women. There's no difference between men and women. In fact, they're probably way smarter and better equipped than men. But in a world that is run by egotistical maniac men, are a group of women going to be allowed, and I say that loosely, allowed to be the ones to disclose? I think there's going to be, dicks will start getting measured, and it just won't go the way
Come on,
we
leave the
think.
Catholic Church out of this here. They got a new pope coming.
Exactly.
Who knows? I've heard all day.
It's
Yeah,
been
that
a
was a
long
good
day
one.
as well.
No, that was probably the funniest thing I've heard all day. It was very comedic. Great job. I really do hope if it could be pulled off by anyone, it would be a group of women. It would be. It would make sense. So cheers to that group. Let's get it done.
Absolutely. Great conversation today. Tyler. We appreciate you coming out today. It's we're at 8:15 our time here, 8:13 close enough. We're in overtime. You've got to bring this to a close. So do I. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, which is way too friggin' early. Yeah,
I'm with you, man. I really appreciate you allowing me to be on today or tonight. I'm very strongly opinionated in areas, but I like to think that I remain in a neutral capacity, willing to have or open to having a conversation with anybody, even if I disagree. Actually, I kind of like it when we disagree because, if we're all just circle jerking, I mean, what's the fun in that echo chamber? Yeah. Disagreement is what, disagreement leads to advancement, in my opinion. I will say this. There are things coming that I know of that are going to challenge the notion of reality. That are going to challenge the way that you live your day-to-day life. And there are people like this group of people right here that anyone can turn to and tell and talk about, vent, right? We're gonna when and if disclosure does happen in our time, we'll go from obscurity to being someone that people lean on, right? For answers. Like, all right, fill me in. What am I missing? Right? So we have to be humble in that notion, right? And I do have hope. I really do. I have hope for the human race. I think there's nothing that we can't accomplish. We just need to put the ego aside.
Oh, absolutely. Talking about egos, I can't wait to have you back again soon, Tyler. It was a great evening, great conversation. Beyond my expectations. Yeah, and then so again, we're bigger on the podcast side, or I say we, but it's just me. I'm bigger on the podcast audio side, trying to break into the video, opening the new studio and that. Well, if you're good with audio, you may want to help out the UAPDF because they suck at it.
Yeah, they definitely do. But also, I do want to just mention this really quickly. So the reporting mechanisms are up on the International UFO Bureau site. So if you go to internationalufobureau.com and you have a sighting that you want to report, if it's a past case, I do think we're accepting them to a certain degree. But for now and in the future, if you have a cryptid sighting or a paranormal encounter or a UFO sighting, it's all going to be something you can report and will be investigated by the best people in the game. I mean, we're working with the Navajo Nation. We're working with a lot of groups, that are they're the top of the top in what they do. So I know MUFON's a great tool, but I think the Bureau is going to be the next big thing in UAP reporting and research and investigation. So give it a look, and we got a lot coming down the pike.
Absolutely can't wait to see what happens next. Thank you again for coming tonight, Tyler.
Thank you.
I appreciate it, Mike. Mike, thank you for going ahead and setting this up. Great guest today, my friend. Wow.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. Great conversation. Yeah. No, it you know what? The time flew by because we were involved in a very interesting conversation. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you for putting this together as well, Thomas, after your bout with COVID-19 that I know you're still dealing with. It was a lot to do, and we're all grateful and appreciative. I know I am, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate everybody's love and support and everything. Yeah, it was a tough one. I'm probably 85% of the way back, but that last 15% is going to be a while to get there, my friend.
Yeah.
Oh, I know, but you made a lot of headway, and hopefully the end will be soon near.
Well, hopefully not. I don't want to end yet.
No, the end will be near soon. So
yeah, I'll be back to normal as normal can be.
Yes, you will be. That's right.
What is normal?
I don't know. Ask Abby.
Don't be normal. Be fucking weird.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And I can talk to you about dead people all I want because I'm one of those people who get to communicate through all that stuff. I've never asked for it, but it's something that I've dealt with since I've been a kid. So it's it all kind of goes together with this whole consciousness thing. So
yeah, like I said, I'd like to you know, if we want to hit a topic like, you know, USOs or ancient civilizations, like I'd love to really dive deep into, you know, something in the future. So I'd love to come back and love to do it again.
Absolutely. Sounds great. I want to thank everybody for coming out to this episode of Disclosure tonight. And as we usually say at the end of every episode, eyes open, no fear, be safe, everybody, but...
Go back to Party City where
Absolutely.
you belong.
Catch you on the flip side. Good night, everybody. Love you. Come back soon. Take care. Bye-bye.